morning and welcome to the Oil Check. This is the Rona special number 5. And as you can see, again, slightly different. My usual co-host, Mr. Joe Pennick, is not actually with us today because he is stuck with work. So again, we sent out the distress signal to bring in not only a special guest, but also basically another co-host who answered the distress call, but none other than the Cheesecake Assassin himself, Mr. Danny Mitchell. How the devil are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm really good. How are you?
Yeah, awesome. Absolutely awesome. So look, just before we get into it, obviously we are going to be talking about UFC 250, which is happening tomorrow night. But before we do that, we just need to let everyone know, as always, the Oil Check podcast is sponsored by Fight Central, and their website is www.fight-central.co.uk. And if you go onto their website and use the discount code TheOilCheck, you will receive 10% of all of the entire site. And if you want to contact the Oil Check for any reason, you can do so by telephone or text on 07510954793. You can email us on theoilcheck@hotmail.com, or all forms of social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at the Oil Check. Okay, so that is the boring shit out of the way. Danny, you sat in your car.
Yes.
You said before in the message, you said, I'm going to get a bit of peace and go and sit in the car. Obviously, I know your nipper's quite young, and obviously it's lockdown. So what's been happening, and are you at breaking point yet with the lockdown?
Yeah, I mean, my life's usually spent in the gym, and every week and I'm at fights. So it's been it's a bit of a different sort of time, you know, just being at home a lot and being with the family a lot, and I've enjoyed it, to be fair. But yeah, my little lad's just been connected to my side, so it's hard to get away from him. But so I thought I'd come in car, otherwise you'd have an extra guest in Roman.
Yeah.
So,
Roman, that's a fucking cool name as well, man. I love that.
Yeah, I wanted to call him like a gladiator name, you know, but my missus, she wasn't interested in calling him Tiberius or Leonidas. So we had to settle with Roman.
Cool, man. So how old is he now?
He's just turned 5. He's 5 years old. So
yeah. When's he having his first fight?
Oh, he's already had a few fights. He's a little nutter. He's a little nutter. So I take him to the gym and stuff, and he's got a crazy life.
I've seen photographs and that. Yeah. I've seen the photographs you taking him to the gym, and it is, you know, I mean, like, my kid, you know, he's nearly 17 now, and he's grown up in the fight world, not so much in the gym really, but you know, at shows, you know, ever since he was old enough to walk. You know, I've taken him to shows at weekends and that, and he just, you know, for him, it's a very, very natural thing to be sitting at the side of a cage or a boxing ring, and you know, I mean, he's literally he's probably been to 200 shows in his lifetime already. You know what I mean? So, you know, he feels very, very comfortable when he gets there. It's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's same with Roman. I take him to events and stuff, and he's just kind of growing up around it. I'd never force him to train or anything like that, but yeah, it's just like part of his life. And all the fighters are like his uncles now, and they all look after him from around. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah. So what happened to that? You've cut your hair off, Danny. What's happened?
I know, yeah. Look at that.
I mean, you know, you've basically had the most famous haircut in UK MMA for like the last fucking 10 years or something. What's been happening?
So when I retired from fighting, about what is it now? About it'll be 3 years now. I retired from MMA. I decided to cut the mullet off, and since then I have had a couple of fights. I've had 2 boxing fights, but I kept the hair cut nice and clean. But now we're in lockdown. I don't know if you're able to see this, but I've started to grow it a little bit again. So it's making a comeback. So the actual reason why the mullet ended up happening is because I was cutting my own hair. So if you cut your own hair, it's easy to do the sides. So I just shave the sides and I just leave the back. And then people are saying, "Oh, what are you doing that for? Get a proper haircut. And the more people said that, the more it just motivated me to grow a sick mullet. So yeah, so I'm kind of back in that frame of mind now. So you might see a return of the mullet.
Well, hopefully we do. Hopefully we do. So yeah, I mean, to be honest, so what we normally do is we normally try and sort of talk a little bit about what's going on in the world these days, and we always do try and keep it a little bit positive. Fortunately, the majority of the stuff, I've just had a look on the Google News page, and out of the entire thing on the Google News page is, it's all negative bullshit, really. So it's lockdown, coronavirus, Black Lives Matter protests and riots. And, there's very, very little positive news going on out there. So taking the fighting thing out of the thing, you yourself have been trying to keep very, very positive. I noticed, obviously, you were doing quite a lot of workout videos at the beginning. And you even, me and my boy were even following on. You did a good kettlebell workout. And me and my boy were following on that. But you recently decided, for whatever reason, I don't know whether it was Rico who decided first and you followed, or the other way around, all of a sudden you woke up one morning and said, I'm going to do a triathlon. Was that right?
Yeah. Yeah,
so
that's right.
Tell me a bit about that.
Well, it's just one of those things with one of the coaches who we get involved in at the gym, John Wattham, is a really good strength and conditioning coach, and he's a triathlete. He competes in triathlon, and he's an absolute beast. So me and Rico have been training with him, and obviously this lockdown's happened. There's no fights, so it's like we need some kind of challenge. We need something to aim at. So Rico decided he was going to do an half Ironman. Which is crazy when you look at the distances and stuff. So I thought, well, and Rico's a lot fitter than me. I'm not in fight shape at the minute. Rico's in super shape. So I thought, right, well, I'll do a triathlon and try and keep up with him. So we did it, and then that's kind of evolved now. The training's really good, and it's keeping us motivated and keeping us active. So now we've decided we're going to go next year. We're going to fly to Lanzarote and we're going to do the full Ironman. I believe, from what I've been told, it's one of the hardest Ironman races in the world, the one in Lanzarote, because it's the swim with the sea and the bike's up a mountain.
Fuck.
Yeah. So there's me, Rico, and there's Josh Gudgeon, who was basically not an athlete, but he's gonna come along. He's gonna film it, and he's gonna compete himself as well. So it's gonna be crazy to sort of see how it all unfolds. Because Rico's super fit, and I think he'll do really well at that. I'm sort of fat and lazy, but I have the potential to be fit. And then Josh is like not an athlete, he makes vlogs and stuff like that. So it's going to be a crazy scenario to see how we all get on and see if we all even make it. So.
That's fucking that's pretty impressive. I mean, there's sort of unluckily for me, but luckily, the running and stuff I can't do anymore. Basically, I ripped my cartilage when I was doing jiu-jitsu, 15, 16 years ago. And my right knee's completely fucked now, so I need a knee replacement. So I literally running, biking. I can't do. I can swim. I was, when I was training for that boxing match earlier in the year, I was in the pool every morning at 6:30. It's the only thing I can really do cardio wise. But yeah, I mean, fucking hell, man, an Ironman. For me personally, from obviously a non-professional fighter, and a very, very poor amateur, trier, I'd rather get hit in the fucking face 10 times than I would fucking try and run and bike an Ironman. Different kind of fucking strength, isn't it? It's mental, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the what's attracted us to it. It's not the physical feat of doing it, which the physical feat is fucking tough, but it's the mental strength that you need to get through. And yeah, it's crazy. The distances. So you do a 2.4 mile swim, and that's in the sea. Yeah. So you do.
That's fucking. I mean, that in itself is ridiculous.
I know. I'm fucking starting to regret regret signing up. But you get out of the sea, then you get on your bike, and it's 112 miles on a bike, which is about sort of 5 to 6 hours of just non-stop, just pedaling.
I mean, that's essentially like doing a stage of the Tour de France, probably even a bit more. You know what I mean? That's fucking like proper Lance Armstrong, Bradley Wiggins, like bike efforts.
Yeah, I'm gonna be fucking pumped full of EPO when I do this as well. But, and then the thing is, the part for me that's like really in my head, that when I think about it, like I think, right, the swim's first. All I've got to do is swim and get out of the water, then I'm on the bike. And then for me, the bike, it's like, it's tough, but if you can just get to a speed and just cruise, it's doable. You just got to mentally be able to keep going. But then for me, the toughest bit is you get off the bike and you've got to run a marathon.
What, a whole marathon? What, 26 miles?
Yeah, you have to, so a full Ironman, you do the 112-mile bike and you get off the bike and you run a 26-mile run.
That's fucking sick, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, even the thought of a marathon scares the fucking shit out of me. But after the swim and that, mate, that's absolutely ridiculous. So you've mentioned Rico. Now, I don't know Rico. And to be honest, I'm a bit of a fanboy. Yeah? I follow him on social media. I think he's fucking hilarious. He's, and obviously what he's achieved. So just taking a step back from what he's actually achieved. So you're his head coach. Now, obviously you're a jiu-jitsu black belt. A lot of your wins and, obviously, a lot of your MMA career, a lot of your wins were submission based. You are essentially known as a grappler, really.
Yeah.
And you are now the head coach of the world bare knuckle boxing champion. So explain how we get from one to the other.
Yeah, it's just a mad fucking story, but it sort of started back. Like, obviously, I've been doing MMA and jiu-jitsu for a long time now, but I've actually boxed professionally as well. I had boxing matches. So
in total, because I saw you post up, you've had 98 professional fights, is that right? Or 98 fights, including your amateurs and stuff like that. Is that right?
It's actually 105 now. 105.
All right.
Altogether, that's including amateur and pro, and that's including boxing, K1 and MMA.
Yeah.
So 105 fights, 85 wins and 2 draws.
That's fucking, I mean, that is some fucking going. So, yeah. I mean, like, the only person who can rival that kind of, well, Paul Jenkins has got 100 MMA fights on it. Well, I think on his Sherdog record, he's got 98 professional MMA fights. Yeah. And obviously, boxing and K1 and et cetera. But, these days, there's not many people can sort of rival those numbers, and it's a very, very impressive thing. So obviously, what came first for you? Was it jiu-jitsu or was it boxing?
So I actually wanted to be a boxer when I was a kid. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do boxing, and my mum and dad were like, "Fuck that! You're not doing boxing. You're gonna get really clever. You're gonna get a good job, and you're not gonna do that because boxing is brutal." And then I was about 10 years old, and we had like this little fight club. We all used to watch wrestling and stuff, and we used to just fight each other. And one of the kids was his dad owned a big taekwondo school, so he used to teach us like kicks and punches and stuff. And he had the great idea, which was just a great sales tactic, really, of inviting all these kids who were all rough kids, street fighting with each other. Just play fights, really, but it got out of hand a few times. But he invited us all to his gym and said, you can all have a month free trial, learn a bit of respect and stuff. So we all went, and I did a month's free training, and everyone else sort of sacked it off. And I just loved it. And I think my mum and dad could see that it's like, everyone's bowing and we're all stood in line. And I think they saw the martial arts side of it as not as bad as boxing, not as brutal, and they said, yeah, you can do it. So from that moment, I just fell in love with martial arts, and I did taekwondo for like 2 or 3 years, just solid, like everyday training. After a couple of years, I think I'm like 12, 13 years old, and they started letting me help out teaching the little kids. So I was teaching from a very young age.
Oh.
And that kind of set me up for now. And then obviously, as things progressed, I started doing kickboxing. And then eventually, when I got to like 16, then I started doing boxing, which is what I wanted to do originally anyway. So I actually started doing more like striking stuff.
All right.
Yeah, I had quite a few kickboxing fights while I was still at school. And then I started, doing jiu-jitsu. When I'm about 15, 16 years old, I was in a gym and I was hitting a punch bag. And it's a proper fucking rough-ass gym in Doncaster. If you know Doncaster, it's called Nobody's Gym. And it was just like, they even had a special room where you could go and fucking inject steroids. That's how fucking ruthless it was. The little steroid room. Like the old gym where it was is actually knocked down now. It's in a new place. But so in this old gym, I'm hitting the bag, and there's these two blokes on floor, and they're like kind of wrestling with each other, and doing submissions and that. And I'm like, fucking hell, this looks pretty good. So I said to them, will you show me some moves? Can I train with you? They said, yeah, come here. And they just fucking beat the fuck out of me. They were just two big like rugby lads. I were a little skinny kid, and they just took piss out of me, really. They just laid on me, choked me a few times, and they turned out to be at the time they had gis on and they had white belts at the time, and they turned out to be Ben Poppleton and Neil Owen, who were both now black belts.
Yeah.
Ben Poppleton was the first Englishman to get a black belt off of Gracie. He got his black belt off Carlos Gracie Jr. in Brazil, and Neil Owen got his off Ryan Gracie. So, yeah, it's crazy what ends up happening. But that was kind of my introduction to jiu-jitsu, and then I just went fully in. I was fully invested in that. I watched the UFC. I think I watched UFC 3. That was my first ever one, which is actually the one where the fucking ninja wins. Steve Jenham, the ninja, won UFC 3.
Yeah, that's good. Is that the one because Hoist got injured in the thing in the alternate had to come in, didn't he?
Yeah. So chemo injured him, and then the alternate was a police officer called Steve Jenham, who was down as a ninjutsu practitioner. So he got in the final and did some kind of fucking tiger claw to this guy's face and won. So he actually won UFC 3. Which is crazy. So Hoist didn't win, but obviously I saw Hoist fighting and stuff, and that sort of inspired me that jiu-jitsu was the one. So I was just fully invested in jiu-jitsu then for like 2 or 3 years. I pretty much fucked striking off, and I'm like, fucking hell, this don't work. This taekwondo I did when I was younger, that's bullshit. That don't work. All these martial arts I've been trying to learn, it's all bullshit. Jiu-jitsu was the one, so I was just fully invested in that, learning that, and then I will started competing in amateur MMA, which back in the day, the MMA shows are like the rules were fucking crazy. I think my first few fights were just in like a sports hall on some mats with like 20 people watching. These were like MMA rules.
Yeah.
Fucking just crazy times, but after a while I sort of realised the value of the striking that I had done, and I started bringing it back into the jiu-jitsu, to kind of give me an all-round style. But in my fights I tend to just grapple. It just happens that way, I guess. It just ended up me throwing lots of crazy submissions at people, so that's what I became known for. But I've always had a good base in striking. I've always trained at pro boxing gyms and stuff like that. So I've got a good understanding of striking. So when Rico started training with me about eight years ago, he was just doing MMA. He was just a tough lad who wanted to do MMA.
Because he was quite successful in MMA. He's had a few good wins and stuff like that. So how what was the motivation behind going to the bare knuckle? Was it like a last minute phone call, or was it a planned thing? Did he look at it and go, fuck, I really want to do that? or was it like they needed a fucking last minute opponent and he stepped in?
Yeah, so the actual first conversation, so this BKB show, what there was after like ex UFC guys, ex Bellator guys, that they wanted them on the roster to sort of, you know, make them look better. You know, that's what they wanted. They wanted to get rid of all the, you know, pub fighters, and they wanted to bring proper athletes to it. So they got in touch with me, but at the time I just retired from fighting, and yeah, like although it were, you know, something I really wanted to do, yeah, it just wasn't the right time. But they said, if you want, you know, come to the next show, watch the event, and see what you think. So I said, sound, I'll bring Rico with me. So me and Rico turned up, went to the London O2.
Oh,
Every fight was sick.
yeah.
So, and then Rico's like, fuck, I want to do this. Like, let's do it. So I spoke to the promoter and I said, listen, you know, Rico's come and watched. He's really interested. I think he'd have a good style for this. Because although he does MMA, he's predominantly a striker. And, you know, that's what he enjoys doing. He's got that sort of Nick Diaz kind of style to him. So yeah, they just said, let's get him on the next event and see how he does. And we brought him down, and yeah, he smashed his first fight, and we just went from there. He's now, what is he now? 6-0, bare knuckle world champ, and he's built up a massive following in the bare knuckle scene. And I think it's really, it just suits him. That style suits him.
So I mean, obviously, there's a few of those lower level guys in the bare knuckle. They aren't really worth a lot. You know, they're not. You know, if you were to put them against a decent level professional boxer, they'd get smashed to fuck. Yeah. But the guy that he actually beat for the title is fucking legit as fuck, and he's like known as like he was basically like, no one from what I understand is no one really gave Rico a chance when he was going in against this guy. You know, Rico, even though he was 5-0 going into this, he was definitely a very, very heavy underdog, and this guy's been around the world and is regarded as like the king of fucking bare knuckle, and fucking Rico's gone in there and given him a fucking lesson, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. So when we had that first fight, I think Jimmy Sweeney, the guy who was the champ, he was the main event, and we watched him and we were like, fucking hell, imagine fighting him, imagine fighting that guy, and he had this massive following. You know, his record, I think he had 20 wins, 1 loss, and his only loss he actually avenged that day, and he broke the guy's jaw. And that was Julian Lane. So yeah, it was fucking crazy to sort of see him back then. Yeah. And then as we kept progressing and winning fights, I'm like, that's the guy. That's who we're after. You know, we're heading towards him. We're going to end up fighting him. And Rico's like, oh, it'll be crazy just to fucking fight him. And then every fight, we're just getting closer and closer. And yeah, it got to the stage where we ended up with a shot against the world champ Jimmy Sweeney, and yeah, it was just Rico's time. You know, he improved so much, and yeah, it was just everything just kind of slotted into place, and he got the win. And what a fucking crazy fight to be. So yeah, so we ended up in the fight with Jimmy, and it was just a crazy fucking fight. You know. There was just fucking blood everywhere.
Proper back and forward battle, wasn't it? Because if I remember right, Rico got the best in the first round, didn't he? And like that fucking Sweeney kid shit himself because he thought he was going to go in and walk all over him, and next thing he's getting the face punched off him, isn't he?
Yeah. So as soon as he got in there, and like I say, that first round, you know, he starts landing shots, and we actually got a sparring partner who had previously beat Sweeney in a boxing fight with gloves.
All right.
So Sweeney's had about 100 fights with gloves on. You know, he fought in the amateurs and stuff, and as you know, like in the amateurs, if you're having 100 fights, you know, you're going to lose a few decisions and stuff like that. So we actually had a lad near us who'd beat him before. So we used him for sparring, and I think it gave us a little bit of an edge, not just in the skill wise, but mentally.
Yeah.
We were putting out there on Facebook, oh, you know, we've got this guy who's beaten Jimmy, and we're training with him, and we've got the inside knowledge. So I think that maybe gets in his head a little bit.
Yeah.
And on the day Rico starts beating him, and I'm like looking at the other corner and like, fuck, it's working. You know, this is working. And everything was sweet until I think the third round.
And then he came back, didn't he? He dropped him a couple of times.
Yeah, he dropped Rico, and you know it was bad. Like he hits hard, and he put Rico down. But in BKB they have a 20-second count.
Yeah.
10 seconds. So after like 4 or 5 seconds, Rico's up, and I'm like, go back down, fucking just go to your knee, take like an 18-second count, and then get up.
Yeah.
You know, use that time. So he did that. Bang, he gets fucking knocked down again. So I'm like, just fucking take the count, you know, let's just, because the rounds are 2 minutes. So I'm like, if we can get to the end of the round, Rico's recovery is good because he's super fit. And we managed to get to the end of the round. Rico recovered. And then for me, you know, I'm biased as a coach, but for me, watching the next round, I thought Rico came back and won the next round, even though he was fucked. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like the other cornermen are saying, is he all right? Do we need to pull him out? And I'm like, nah, he's going to be all right. And fucking hell, he came back and then we could see the big cut on Jimmy's lip or whatever. And we just targeted that and it just split all the way up here. You know, his nose was broke or whatever, blood everywhere. And he got the win. So,
yeah, I mean, obviously I wasn't there, but I remember when he posted the link up on his Instagram. And I've watched it a couple of times back then, and yeah, I mean, like I say, I don't know the kid at all, but you know, I really like, you know, I like his fighting style. Obviously, I know you, and I know you're his coach, so it's like, yeah, it's Danny's boy, and but yeah, just, you know, from what I see of him on social media, he seems like a properly cool lad, and yeah, so yeah, big fanboy, mate, big support here. So yeah, love that. So. Just taking a step back and just more concentrating on yourself. Again, you know, so you were doing, you were in the pro ranks of MMA for a hot second, and you know, you did it all, and obviously you fought a few people I know, you fought a few of my friends, but I also, you know, I emceed you a few times, even hooked you up with a fight once. And then, you know, eventually you went on to the UFC, Bellator, ACB. You know, like I say, you covered all the bases. So, you know, starting back 2008, you know, Ultimate Force in Doncaster. I remember I emceed one or two of those shows. I think it was Paul Murphy was the promoter back then.
Yeah.
You know, you got yourself you know, you went on, you know, the first. What was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You went on an 8-fight win streak, and you took some names down there. So you know, first 3 fights, you know, local fights, Ultimate Force, Total Combat, and that Total Combat you fought twice in one night. Is that right?
Yeah, I fought in a tournament, and I actually fought.
Yeah.
The first fight in that tournament was the promoter's son, so Peter
McQueen. Yeah.
And Andy McQueen had never lost at that point. I think he was like 15-0 as an amateur, and I think that was his first or second pro fight, and it was my second. So I beat him, so that was a good scalp straight off the bat.
So yeah, but I mean, you took, you know, 2 fights in the night, and both of them went the distance. So you did 6 rounds and won both on a split decision.
Yeah.
It wasn't an easy night's work for you, was it?
Oh no, that were a tough night, and I think I fought at 7 o'clock, and then 7 o'clock, and then I fought at 1 a.m. The final was at 1 a.m.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, I was fucked, but yeah, that were. And if you look, they're my only 2 wins that are by decision, and they're on the same night. All my other wins, I finished them either submission or KO. So.
And then you went next Ultimate Force in Doncaster. You fought my good mate Lee Dosky, and you know, Lee's another well-known jiu-jitsu black belt, and you got him with a heel hook in that one. So you know, your 4th fight, You know, by then Lee was very well known. You know, Lee beaten Dan Hardy. You know, and he'd fought everyone. You know, he'd fought Paul Daly. You know, he had a fantastic names on his record, and you've got in there and gave him you know submitted him by heel hook and then very closely later that year, then at the time Leslie Ojibana. He had a good reputation within UK MMA, and again you've beaten him by submission as well. So do you think those 2 wins sort of solidified your reputation as someone to be taken seriously in the welterweight division?
Yeah, definitely. At the time, you know, Lee Dosky, he was one of the most experienced fighters from sort of the south, and then you got Les. He were a big name up in the north, so I think the wins against them sort of covered all bases for me, really. And yeah, that's sort of when people started noticing me. But yeah, they were 2 big fights. And Dan Hardy actually, because the Lee Dosky fight, we did it for a title, and Dan Hardy actually presented the title, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then the one against Les that were at Total Combat, which used to be a fucking awesome show. It's gone to shit now. It's absolute fucking dog shit. But back in the day, it was a fucking mint show.
Yeah. I mean, you know, to be honest, it's one of those things, isn't it? You know, sometimes the longer promoters do the job for, they do lose a bit of heart. You know, I've worked for most promoters in my time, and I've seen a lot of them come and go, and I've seen a lot of them, you know, 10 years ago they were putting on the biggest and best shows in the UK, and now you look at the product they're promoting now, and you know they're just going through the motions to pay the bills, aren't they? You know what I mean? And it's not that same level of passion. So yeah, I get that. And then next one, you know, I emceed you knuckle up at the Celtic Manor in Newport, and again win by submission against Jordan James. Then beat Sammy Berwick. You know, Sammy's a good mate of mine. Obviously got a bit of a salty record, and you know, he's I'm sure everyone knows he's not the like I say, he's one of those guys that, you know, beat a lot of people that no one thought he was going to beat, but you know, had a lot of fights and you know, was used as a bit of a stepping stone by a few people. And then again, you know, back to knuckle up at Cheltenham, where you beat Simon Phillips, and again I was MC on that one, and that one was like on Sky Sports and that, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, that were a big show. One of my favourite fights, that as well. So yeah, it's mad as well, because what you got to remember, and you know, you'll see this if you watch these fights back, especially the one with Simon Phillips. Like, I did not have a coach. When I fought Simon Phillips, I had one of my mates who's never done MMA, and one of my students who I teach. They were my cornermen. So, like, I remember them telling me stuff in corner. They were saying, right, you need to throw a right hand. And I was like, nah, I'm going to throw a left hook. I was coaching them to fucking coach me. So, it's crazy. I got to 8-0, and I never really had, like, a coach.
Yeah.
Did this thing. So, and I pretty much did that for my entire career. But I thought I did pretty good to get fucking 8 on the bounce without a coach. And
then you like you say, you got there with you got to 8-0, and then you picked up a couple of losses. You lost to Eugene Fadiora, and he was scheduled to be one of the next big things, because I emceed a lot of his early career. He was like 10-0 as an amateur, and all his amateur fights had been in like anger management and stuff like that in the shows I used to MC. So yeah, I don't think he's fighting anymore for whatever reason, which is a bit of a shame. You know, he was one of the big prospects of the UK, and then your main event. This was again, because I remember basically this was cage contenders in Manchester, and Gunnar Nelson was set to fight, and they needed an opponent, and the promoter rang me up and he said, I need a welterweight to fight Gunnar Nelson. I went, right, you just hold on 1 second there. I was like, all right, Dan Sledge. He's like, all right, do you want to fight Gunnar Nelson? You were like, of course I fucking do. And that was it. The easiest bit of matchmaking I've ever taken part in. Like I say, you unfortunately came off second best there. But look, bottom line is that's no embarrassment. Gunnar is a very, very special talent when it comes to jiu-jitsu and obviously MMA. And he's still in the UFC now. So it was good that you got in and had that experience against him. Do you think going up against someone with such a high level game? So did you learn anything from that fight?
Yeah, I mean that was probably the toughest fight I've had. Not in terms of it like a war or anything. He just got on my back and choked me, but just the skill level, just seeing the level in skill. I trained hard for that, and I got in there, and I think he took me down, mounted me, and I actually managed to escape mount. And John Kavanagh joked to me after, he's like, "Oh, you did well there, mate. You actually escaped mount. No one's ever done that before." And I'm like, "Fucking hell, that's a positive I can take from it." But yeah, just the skill level and obviously to see where he's gone now, it were a really good experience to do that. And yet again, I did that fight. I had my boxing coach. I just had a guy who held pads for me in my corner. That's it. Whereas Gunny, had John Kavanagh, who obviously everybody knows now, and he's gone on to do massive things. But yeah, it's just crazy when I think back, like how much I actually did with little or no coaching. I always think, what if I just joined the team? What if I flew over to Ireland and joined SBG? Or what if I went to America? What could I have actually done? With a bit of planning.
Well, do you know what? I was half. That was something I was actually going to half bring up because again, you've got some big names on your record, and do you think that you potentially you could say that you didn't live up to your potential, and if you'd have been a bit more serious about it, and like you say, with a bit of planning, you think you could have went a bit further?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you look at my professional record, I think I've got 20 wins, 9 losses, and 1 draw, and I think out of them 9 losses, I know in my heart that I could avenge 8 of them.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think that the Gunnar Nelson one is probably the only one where I look at it and think, even if I'd have changed my training, even if I'd have had, a different coach or whatever, I think that
he still would have won.
Style-wise, he would have probably beat me anyway, because I think he's a fucking beast. But yeah, but I honestly believe all the other fights I've had, I fought fucking Kendall Grove on a week's notice in America.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was going to come to that in a second, right? Because I've got a funny story about him. So the reason I wanted to wait there, because the next time you took a loss was a decision loss against Henrique Santana. Now, I actually used to train with him fucking like before my kid was born. So, talking fucking 18. Like, I used to train with him when he was a blue belt. Yeah. And now he's like a 4th degree black belt or something like that. I mean, it's ridiculous. Now, the reason I ask is, how did you get on in that fight? Not like, obviously, you lost the decision. The reason I ask is, Paul Jenkins told me that when he fought Henrique Santana, it was the only fight he ever had that he didn't enjoy. He said it was like fighting like a fucking hedgehog. And the guy was like fucking... Like he was actually oil checking him. That's the name of the podcast. He was fucking fingering his arse. He was fucking sticking his chin in his eyeball. Like he was a real fucking handful and, pushing the fucking limits of the rules. And Paul Jenkins said it was one of the most horrific experiences of his life. And for a man like Paul Jenkins to say that, he's got to be a fucking pretty disgusting bloke to fight. So how did you find, because you went 3 rounds with him?
Yeah, so there's a fucking big story to this, but basically, like, it was for a world title, if that even exists.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be 5. I were under the impression it were 5 rounds. So I trained for 5 rounds. I was fully prepared for 5 rounds. And then they actually changed it last minute. It's like, oh no, it's just 3 rounds.
Yeah, because his cardio ain't the best, mate.
Yeah. So that was like I think that's literally like just before the fight. It's like, oh, it's 3 rounds. And I'm like, what? And then I'm fighting. That's like how it went. So
typical UK MMA back in the day.
Yeah, so I'm fighting him, and like I've got two guys in my corner, and he's got about fucking 15 Brazilian dudes around me fucking shouting at me. So yeah, I sort of tried to stay on my feet. I hit him with some good shots, and then he was taking me down, and then from the bottom, I would just elbowing the top of his head. His head's like a fucking coconut. I would just fucking elbowing it from underneath. And after the fight, I couldn't even straighten my arms. I threw that many elbows, and he was in a bad way. He literally just rode the fight out on top. He just won the fight from being on top, and it was very negative. I personally think I won the fight because I was throwing up submissions. I was aggressive on the feet. All he did was take me down and just fucking lay on me, basically. I think he got caught. I'll have to watch it back. I have actually found the fucking fight somewhere, so I'll try and upload it. But I think he got on me back at one point and did actually nearly choke me. But then a lot of the fight, he's just like in my guard, just like chipping away. And I got frustrated at one point. So I know you're saying he's a dirty bastard, but I did something pretty ruthless. So he's in my guard, and he started to stand up. And I thought, when this cunt stands up, I'm going to fucking boot him in his head as hard as I can. So he stands up and he's on one leg. And while he's on one leg, I'm just too eager to do it. And I just fucking volleyed him from my back and just straight in chin and knocked him down. And then luckily, like, I should have been DQ'd because he was fucking out, But then luckily, the ref was actually my mate, Craig Lawrence.
I know Craig, yeah, he's a good lad.
So luckily, the ref he took a point off and he gave him his 5 minutes rest, which I thought he's definitely not going to fucking take this rest. He's just going to say no, which is it's a bit stupid on his part, really, because he could have just got an easy win by DQ. And then the fight continued, but he was fucked. Like at the end of the fight, he was like on the floor, and I got up and I started shadowboxing and doing press ups and that because I was ready for 5 rounds. Like, I wanted to take him into them championship rounds. And knew his gas tank wasn't good, so I'm like,
he got a reputation of having poor cardio, didn't he?
Yeah, so I'm doing fucking shadowboxing, press ups, and that. All these Brazilians are piling in, picking him up and shit, and I was just like, bastard, But I probably should have been DQ'd because I fucking gave him a right welly when he were on one knee. So.
Well, it is what it is. So look, then you fought Cathal Pendred to a draw in Jordan, and Conor McGregor was on that. That was Cage Warriors Fight Night 2. So again, Cathal Pendred then went on to fight in the UFC. But the thing that I think, one of the things that I don't know if you can probably gauge this better than me. One of the things that gave you a lot of attention was your next fight on BAMMA, where you fly and triangle Dean Amasinga. So obviously this was on the telly. Dean Amasinga was known because I think at that point he'd been on the Smashers. He'd been on the Ultimate Fighter, and obviously Dean was known as the training partner of Dan Hardy, Paul Daly, all of that. And Dean's a sound lad. I've known Dean for a long time. But there's you, the Cheesecake Assassin, flying triangle. Everyone's like, holy fucking shit. So did you feel that your star started to shine a bit brighter after that?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm in there. I've got fucking no real coaching team. I'm just doing my own thing. And then the fight itself was fucking shit. I actually injured my knee. Like, straight away, something went in my knee in that fight. So if you watch it, I'm fucking just backpedaling a lot. It was a fucking shit fight for me. And then, I remember just being against the cage. And I had Wayne Murray in the corner, who were one of the partners. But it was Wayne were a fucking beast back in the day.
Yeah, I have seen him a few times on Ultimate Force,
Yeah, he were a beast. So he were in my corner, and it's something that I've, done on Wayne in the gym, jump flying triangles. And I just looked at him, and he just sort of nodded and said, yeah, fucking do it. So I just jumped and locked it on, and he just landed sweet. So that were a big moment in my career, landing a crazy submission like that on a big show against a good opponent. I think that got me a lot of attention and stuff. People started saying, who the fuck's this crazy guy? fucking doing flying submissions. So.
And then a couple more wins, Cage Confrontation, Cage Fury, sort of, domestic shows. And then you brought it up earlier, Fort Kendall Grove. Now, and look, I've kept this secret for a long, long time. I'm pretty sure it's fucking no one's going to be worried about it. Me and Ricky Wright got really fucking stoned with Kendall Grove one night. It was it was after UFC 80 in Newcastle. So we'd been to UFC 80. We'd gone back to the hotel. We were all fucking getting pissed up and beered up in the hotel. And fucking we had some weed up in the fucking hotel room. And Ricky's just walked up to Kendall Grove and he's like, Kendall, you smoke weed, don't you? He's like, yeah. He's like, do you want to come upstairs for a split? And he's like, yeah, all right then. And yeah, so we ended up fucking Kendall came up. So he's he was absolutely sound fella. But you said so you've gone over there on, what was it, a week's notice, was it?
Yeah, a week's notice. I got the call. I can't remember who we were supposed to fight now. But yeah, I got the call and they said, yeah, do you want to fly to America and fight Kendall? So I thought, fuck it, why not? I'd been out. If you look, I think I wasn't fighting for a while before that. I had a bit of a shin.
Yeah, it was nearly a year.
Yeah, I had like a stress fracture on my shin. I'd been in Thailand training, and we were like obviously kicking stuff every day and running up fucking mountains and shit. And yeah, I ended up with a stress fracture in my shin. But I thought, fuck it, I've not really trained, but fuck it, this is a good opportunity. So the fight was at middle. They said, right, the fight's at middleweight. At this point, I'm a welterweight, but I'm like, right, sit middleweight. I've not been training, but I'm pretty much on weight. So sweet, let's go to America. So I flew over to America, and gets to the weigh-in. I get on the scales. I'm like 83 kilos, like sweet. Then Kendall rocks up. He gets on the scales. He's like 88 kilos. And he's like, yeah, sound, start posing for his picture. And I'm like, fucking hell, hold on, it's supposed to be middleweight. Like, I'm a welterweight, fighting at middleweight. He's fucking 88 kilos. And then, so we spoke to like the athletic commission. It was in Kansas. In fact, it was in Kansas City, which is in Missouri. So the Missouri Athletic Commission. So I'm speaking with them, and they're saying, yeah, he needs to be at middleweight. But then apparently he had an agreement with his previous opponent's team that had been done via the promoter to fight at 88 kilos. But they'd not relayed that information to me. They just said it was middleweight. So I was like,
Did you cut any weight, or were you just 86?
A little bit. I think I cut because it was fucking red hot over there. So I think I put a sweatsuit on. I did a little jog, and I ended up like losing too much. I only needed to lose a kilo, and I lost 2. That kind of thing. So, but I'm fat at this point. I'm like a bit podgy. Fucking, I've just been eating shit. And he's a fucking big guy, Kendall. He's like
he's 6'6", isn't he?
Yeah, he's a big unit, like. And then so the athletic commission come in and they said, right, Kendall's not going to make weight, so it's up to you. You can either just cancel the fight or we can come to some kind of agreement. I said, listen, I've fucking flown to America. I'm here to fucking fight. Just like, it doesn't matter what the cunt weighs. Let's just fight. So we ended up fighting. And I was doing all right, to be fair. I felt absolutely fucked. Like I threw a couple of kicks and that, and I thought, fuck me, I'm tired already. Like I'm not used to this. And then he caught me. I think there was 10 seconds left in the fight. He caught me against the cage with like an uppercut, a left hook, and a right hand, and dropped me. And I sort of pulled half guard straight away, and there was literally 5 or 6 seconds left. And the referee just jumped in, and I was like, what the fuck? I thought, at least, let me, it's so close to the end of the round, I'd got my guard back. It's like, I was pissed off because I thought I flew all this way, just let me carry on. But obviously, once the referee makes that call, you've got to respect it. So yeah, but I had a good little trip to America out of it, and then the promoter was like some kind of fucking scam artist. So in America, if you put an event on, you must have 50% of the purses already in like an escrow account.
Yeah.
So I got 50% of my purse, but the other 50% never materialised, unfortunately. And the guy ended up going to jail. But to be honest, I would have fucking done it for free because it was just an awesome experience and that.
Yeah. Oh, well. And then so you banged out a couple of wins after that on, again, sort of local show. And then you went over to Superior Challenge, which is, one of the biggest shows in Europe. And then you get the call for the UFC. So, again, you've said sort of in hindsight, if you'd have had a proper camp, proper training partners, proper coach, you think you would have done a little bit better. But, so you took a couple of decision losses in the UFC. Any regrets apart from, what you've already said with regards to coaching, or do you think, based on what you had at your disposal at the time, do you think you gave a good account of yourself?
Yeah, I mean, they were both very close fights, and you could have argued that I won either of them. I thought, watching them back, but it came at a fucking bit of a bad time, really, in my life. So my dad actually died in that year, that UFC year. Yeah. That's when my dad died, and I thought I didn't want to sort of put the UFC off and say, I need a year off, or I need 6 months off, because I thought that they might just cut me, because they're fucking ruthless, the UFC.
Oh yeah, they don't give a fuck.
Oh yeah. So I just thought I'm gonna have to fight, and I can't. At this point, I had a scholarship in Thailand to train at Tiger. I'd gone over there in 2012, and I'd managed to snag myself a scholarship. We did a crazy week training, probably the hardest week of my life, and I managed to snag a scholarship. So, but I couldn't leave and go to Thailand because my dad just died. My mum's on her own, so I had to stay and basically just train in my own gym with my own guys, and then go and fight. And it wasn't the best idea, but I wouldn't say I've got any regrets. I did it, and it's made me who I am, and it's led to this point in my life. But yeah, I do often think, what would have happened if I'd gone to American Top Team or something like that, and tried to make something more of my career. But then again, I see myself more as a leader anyway, so maybe I wouldn't have fell into that, just being a soldier and being in there and being told what to do. Maybe that wasn't what I were destined to do.
Yeah. So I jumped ahead a little bit there, because you did make a name. You did something in one of those wins before you got to the UFC, and then you repeated it later on. So one of the only people who have got, in fact, probably the only, are you the only person that's now got 2 Twister submissions on his record?
I'm not, because Rico actually got 3 on his.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, little bastard.
Now you've actually got your namesake. You've got there's young Bryce Mitchell, who pulled a Twister out in the UFC, and in his last fight, how the fuck he didn't pull that one off. I mean, his Twister setups were he was all over that guy he was fighting. So now you've got a young lad called Mitchell who's out there fucking twistering the fuck out of people. So does that give you some kind of sense of living vicariously through somebody else? Yeah,
I think he's a sick guy. We definitely need to link up and train or something. But what a guy. That fight, he was fighting a legit black belt there, and he was just fucking
he was fucking smashing him, wasn't he?
Yeah, all over him, and like so many times he was close to that Twister. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Bryce Mitchell. He's a fucking beast. Yeah, that was cool to see. But I managed to land a couple of Twisters, and then, like I say, Rico's landed 3. But I think I've got the sort of sweetest one that I did on Bellator. I think that was a fucking.
Yeah, I was there. I was sat in the front row. So that was in London, and it was the first time Bellator had ever been in the UK. And yeah, I mean, I was front row next to the cage. Very, very close, and I can remember you pulling it off. And everyone was like fucking, well, I mean, I would say the place went mental. It wasn't that busy, but it was, it was still, they hadn't sold that many tickets. But you know, it was still it was a fantastic night. A lot of guys I know on there who would obviously who were fighting, and again, you know, that was the night where fucking
Cyborg got an hole in his head.
MVP fucking kneed Cyborg in his head, and he looked like he'd been fucking shot. Yeah, it was a good old night, man. I remember that. It was a real good old night. So, you know, again, you know, you Bellator, ACB, you got a few wins, you got a few losses, and then eventually you've decided to call it a day. Now, am I right in saying that there was potentially a medical issue there?
Yeah, so I was actually in Thailand, and I was in Thailand, and I came off a bike. We were riding round. Luckily, I had a fucking helmet on. And
I've got the gravel rash on my arm to prove it.
Yeah, it's not good. But yeah, we're up this fucking mountain, and it's red hot, and it starts raining, and the tarmac just gets super slippy, and I started sliding down this mountain, and I just went over the barrier at the side of the road and just head first into a fucking steel post. So Rico came off as well. He was behind me, and you know, he ended up with loads of shit stuck in his arm and that. And luckily there was like a little medic, like it was like a scooter ambulance behind us. So he managed to patch me up, and then I managed to actually ride my bike, which was smashed up. I managed to ride it back to where I was staying. And when I got there, I just said to Rico, like, where the fuck are we? Like, oh, we're in Thailand. And I'm like, why the fuck are we in Thailand? He's like, you're training for a fight. You're fighting on ATV in like 3 weeks. And I was just like, fuck. I can't remember anything.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. And then, so I didn't spar. I did a little bit of, I hit a few pads, did a couple of runs, and then I fought Andy Devent on ACB. He took me down. I had a guillotine. And then I let go of the guillotine to switch for an armbar. And as I made that switch, he hit me with like a little hammer fist. Boom, I went unconscious. And the next thing I know, I'm backstage and I've got my hands wrapped. And I thought, shit, I better start warming up. So I start warming up. And then everybody comes in and they're like, oh, unlucky, mate. And I'm thinking, shit, I've already fought.
Yeah.
And then I knew that like something was seriously fucking wrong. So yeah, at that point, I had to go and have a brain scan, and you know, started all that sort of process, and speaking to neurologists, and they basically said, listen, you know, you need to not fight anymore. You know, start talking about stuff like CTE and all these kind of problems. So yeah, so I made the decision to retire. And I managed to stay retired for 2 years.
A full 2 years.
Yeah, and then yeah, I felt much better after those 2 years. I felt much better. Like originally, so I actually retired, and then I did some sparring to help one of the lads out. Literally after the sparring session, like my head is just pounding. Like to touch my head, it felt really sore, and I knew there was something, you know, some kind of nerve damage and stuff. I knew something was really wrong. So. Yeah, I just left it. But since then, I've had 2 fights. I've had 1 boxing match and 1 bare knuckle fight. And I mean, luckily, I didn't get hit or anything, so I'm all right. But I think there's 2 or 3 fights left in the tank, and I'll fully call it a day.
Well, look, you know yourself better than anybody. You know, if it was me, I'd probably steer clear. But it's one of those things, isn't it? You know, you never want to, you know, the admission of defeat is a real fucking tough pill to swallow, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it's hard when something's been basically your life.
Yeah.
You know, that's all I've done in my life, so it's tough to let that go. And there's always the desire to have that last war. You know, I want to be in one of them crazy fights that people remember, because you know, MMA is popular now, and sort of back in the day when I'm fighting, it weren't as popular. So people are getting more kudos now for fighting than they did back then, and it's like almost like I want a bit of a slice of that. I want people to see what I was doing back then, and yeah, it's tough. But you never know. Couple more fights maybe, and then call it a day. Valley Tudo, mate. That's where it's at. Valley Tudo.
Well, you want to go out because they've just had one of them tournaments out in Poland, like a proper Valley Tudo tournament. Is that what you're looking? You want to push it to the extremes?
Yeah, so I'm actually in talks with them. Votory, it's called in Poland. So I am actually in talks with them about a potential super fight. So yeah, you could see me over there in Poland.
Well, we shall await that with bated breath. So again, look, like I say, we try and stay positive. So the only real positive news story that we've got in the news at the moment, like I say, it's all fucking Rona, it's all lockdown, it's all fucking bullshit. However, something positive, apparently, we might be getting an extra bank holiday in October. So a new bank holiday could be created in October to boost domestic tourism and raise an estimated 500 million for the economy. So fingers crossed, out of all of this bullshit that's going on right now, we might get a little extra bank holiday in October. But apart from that, we normally have a section called Cunt of the Week, but there's just too many to fucking mention. But basically, anyone that's fucking sharing bullshit, negative shit on Facebook, they are definitely cunts of the week this week. So, did you watch last week's UFC? Did you get a chance?
Yeah, I've only caught up on the main event. I watched the main event. I've not seen the undercard and stuff yet.
Well, that was all I was going to ask you about. So, obviously, the main event, welterweight, obviously your weight class. You're still keeping a half an eye on it just in case, I'm assuming. So
I don't think I'll be able to make welterweight anytime soon, right? But yeah, we're a good fight. Both two very fucking explosive guys on it. That's the thing. So explosive. It's yeah.
So I mean, what do you think? What do you think the state of Woodley right now? I mean, he's essentially in his last two fights, he's gone 10 rounds and he hasn't won a round. Do you think he's got too much on his plate elsewhere? Do you think he's lost the passion?
Yeah, I think you know what about Woodley? I don't know why, but I've just never fucking really warmed to the guy. And I think he's sort of getting to the end of his career now, isn't he? I don't know where he sort of sits in the old picture now in that welterweight division. Maybe there's a couple of fights left there for him, but yeah, I think he's at the back end of his career now. So I think he's got to be smart in which fights he takes. Obviously, in the UFC, everybody wants to be this fucking BMF or whatever. They all want these crazy fights and they want them bonuses, but at some point you've got to take stock and just look at and be smart, aren't you? I guess at that level.
Yeah, man. So look, that was last week. I mean, like you say, the undercard, the rest of the card was pretty lackluster. It wasn't anything to write home about. Mackenzie Dern was on there, who's, even though she's a fantastic jiu-jitsu practitioner, she's obviously far better known for Joey Diaz, want to know what her knickers smell like. But anyway, so this weekend, though, we have got... your video's gone there. Oh, no, you're back. So this weekend, we have got a fairly juicy card coming up. So, like, first fight up, you've got Evan Dunham fighting. He's been doing it for a hot second. Few like the prelims are pretty, they're sort of standard. But then you've got so starting on the main card, you've got Chase Hooper versus Alex Caceres. Now Chase Hooper makes a joke. I think he's the one isn't he the one joking, saying that Ben Askren's his dad because he's got the fucking curly barnet.
Yeah.
So he's quite a charismatic young lad. I'd like to see him win. Then Sugar Sean O'Malley's back. He's 11-0. He had a little bit of a run-in with USADA, but he's fighting the veteran in Eddie Wineland. Any opinions on that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's just seeing what he's unbeaten in his Sean O'Malley, and yeah, it's a good test for him. So it's like a lot of people are slating him and stuff. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. See if he can remain unbeaten and silence a few people. But that's what he needs now. He just needs tough tests and stuff, and to sort of silence the haters.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I think he was fairly badly treated by USADA. I mean, he did have something in his system, but again, it was like, it was the micro picogram level, which if you're John Jones, apparently is okay, but if you're anybody else, you get a fucking ban. So yeah, I mean, I think he definitely suffered at the hands of USADA. So yeah, I'd like to see him do well. He's quite a charismatic young man. You've got then Neil Magny versus Anthony Rocco Martin. Neil Magny's sort of been around the block. That Anthony Rocco Martin, they've got a fairly sort of similar record, really. But that young lad Martin, he had one loss to Damien Maia, but he's essentially he's been on a bit of a tear, really. But obviously, Neil Magny is by no means an easy fight for anybody.
Oh man, Neil Magny's a fucking beast, mate. So yeah, that is a
yeah, and I mean again,
you can beat him. That is a big shout.
Yeah, and I mean Neil Magny's got some big names on he's got some big scalps on his record. Kelvin Gastelum, Hector Lombard, Johnny Hendricks, Carlos Conduit, etc., etc. So that's a real tough test for this Anthony Martin. Then the top three, I think my favourite fight on the card. You've got Corey Sanderhagen, Corey the Sandman Sanderhagen versus Aljamain Sterling. So again, I think that fight could go either way. Have you got any sort of predictions where you think that might go? Oh, you hear me there? Oh, you're frozen up there, mate.
Last few weeks have been wrong.
Mate, sorry, you froze up a bit there, so let's just go. But like I say, we're looking at Corey the Sandman Sanderhagen and Aljamain Sterling. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah. So let's say, I think Corey's going to win this, but every prediction I've made these last 2 weeks has been wrong. So.
yeah, I'm the same. Fucking terrible.
So, yeah.
Thanks, mate.
Honestly, I've had a fucking terrible run. Like I thought Overeem's definitely losing. I thought Arlovski's definitely losing. So yeah, whatever I say, basically, just put the opposite bet on, and you'll probably win a lot of money.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. And then so we've got the return of Cody Garbrandt fighting Rafael Sansao. Now I don't know what it is. Again, I mean you mentioned about some fighter before. For some reason, I struggle to warm to Cody Garbrandt. I know he's done a lot.
Yeah.
He was a bit of a cunt during the Ultimate Fighter. Yeah, and he's very much a fucking like a lot of those Team Alpha male guys. They can be a bit fucking prickly. But the thing is I know that he's also done a lot of good stuff. Like there's a friend of mine who is unfortunately, she's all clear now, but her daughter had cancer many years ago, and she's very involved in the children's cancer movement. Like the promoting awareness. And apparently, Cody Garbrandt does a lot of work with some very sick children. And so I've got nothing but respect for him for that. But he can be a bit of a fucking bell end as well. So so do you think he might have learned from his mistakes, and do you think he's going to come back strong, or do you think he's going to be? I think that's what it's all going to depend upon, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, like you say, I've never fucking really liked the guy. And obviously, he's lost his last 3 fights. I think, he's been KO'd every fight. So for me, this is a big sort of like, he has to win this fight. Simple as that, innit? He has to win. So he has to have made them changes. I think Asun Sao's, he's lost his last 2. So this is a really big fight for both guys. I mean, the loser of this fight could be.
Yeah, loser home. Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. So, I mean, he's lost his last 3 fights all by stoppage. And I think he does, it's been said that he gets very emotionally involved. And the last thing you need to do during a fight is to lose your rag. and I think that's what he's been. That's what he's. That's what he's. That's what he's suffered from. But he's been out for a year, so hopefully whoever's coaching him will have got a hold of him and sort of drilled it into him. That he needs to thingy. But like you say, Sansao, again, he's been around for a long, long time. He's been a professional fighter, 16 years, and again has got some big names on his record. But like you say, he is, he's coming off a couple of losses, Marlon Moraes and Corey Sanderhagen, so it's definitely, loser packs their suitcase, I think. So it'll be interesting to see, either Cody Garbrandt's going to have adjusted his strategy and he's going to be calmer, and he's going to have, because he was world champion, let's not forget, even though he didn't defend, he was there for a second, so he's either going to have adjusted his mentality and he's going to come into this fight and be a lot more calmer, and hopefully if there's no bad blood either, he won't have that fucking burning desire to kick his fucking head in from an aggression, from a hatred point of view. Or he's still going to be the same and he's going to be a bit too cocky and Assunção's going to get him. But, who knows what's going to happen? Ring rust is a real thing, but, we're going to find out tomorrow night. And then finally, main event, you've got Amanda Nunes versus Felicia Spencer. Do you think Felicia Spencer stands a chance?
I think Nunes is going to be all over her. Obviously, Spencer's had that, she's only got one loss that were against Cyborg. But yeah, I really like Nunes, and I think she's got Spencer's number here. But again, it's crazy how women's MMA works.
Yeah. I mean, do you think she's just got everyone's number? Do you think she's... I mean, everyone says that until, it's one of those things that people are always unbeatable until they're beaten. And there's always anomalies and things do, change back and forward. I don't think that Felicia Spencer stands much of a chance, really. Like I said, do you think that Amanda Nunes has just got everyone's number at the moment, or do you think there might be someone out there to beat her, or do you think she's going to ride off into the sunset soon and sort of claim victory over women's MMA?
Yeah. I think for me at minute she's looking super dominant, and she's the fucking she's the queen. So, but women's MMA. People thought that with fucking Ronda, with
exactly.
Home. It's so hard, that women's division. It just gets fucking turned on its head constantly. So I'm expecting Amanda Nunes to win. I'm expecting her to win her next few fights and retire. But who knows? Who knows?
Okay, so look, that's covered UFC 250, and. Obviously, is there anything that you have going on right now that you want to let our viewers know about?
So I'm just going to be training for this Ironman and stuff, and we're going to be, doing some vlogs and shit on YouTube. So hit me up on YouTube. It's Danny Mitchell MMA. Get subscribed to that, and follow the journey, follow the craziness. Yeah,
and that's your social media as well, isn't it? Or is it Danny Mitchell, or is it Cheesecake, or what's your Instagram, Twitter, etc.?
So on Facebook and Instagram, just look for Danny Mitchell MMA, and then on Twitter, because I can't actually get Danny Mitchell MMA because there's too many characters, it's just Cheesecake MMA. So, I'm rarely on Twitter, but it seems to be making a bit of a comeback at the minute. So I'll post on there every now and again.
Yeah. So, but Instagram and Facebook's the way forward for you, yeah?
Yeah, that's it. Instagram and Facebook, Danny Mitchell MMA, and check it out.
Yeah. So what we'll do is I'll get all that. It'll all be coming across the bottom in a highly technical graphic at some point. And so look, I just want to say a big thanks, mate, that you've taken time out your day and gone through a few things. It's nice, I've had a few people on from the MMA old school. Had Wes Merch on last week, and it's good to sort of bring some of those memories back from back in the old days. What's just final question before you go? What's your sort of what's your feeling about the current state of the scene? Me and Wes were getting a bit nostalgic last week, saying it's not as good as it used to be, and it is the sort of kind of thing. Be careful what you wish for. When I first started this, like nearly 20 years ago, I was desperate for it to be mainstream and desperate for it to be on the TV, and now it's sort of more mainstream and on the TV. I don't think it's as good as it used to be.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's it. Everybody, your average person down the street now knows what a fucking armbar is.
Yeah.
So it's one of them, and it's really good for the sport, to grow, and it's good for bringing money in, and it's good for my gym because I get more people through the door. But there was something that attracted you to MMA back in the day when it's like this underground fucking semi-legal fucking fighting organisation. But I think that's what I get now from these bare knuckle shows.
Yeah.
I think that's what I get, that same buzz. I remember the first time I'd ever walked in and seen an actual cage set up. I got fucking butterflies. I'm like, this should be illegal. Why is this even happening? But now I get that when I go into these bare knuckle shows, and that the ones that they put on at the O2 are fucking big events. It's like really well. It's run like a pro boxing event, but it's the fact that nobody's got gloves on. It just gives it that fucking underground edge. You've got fucking all these fucking gangsters on that ringside.
Yeah, because you went to Dave Courtney's house, didn't you? After that fucking thing.
Yeah, so went to Dave Courtney's like, yeah, come to my house after. And I didn't know anything about fucking Dave Courtney's house at this point. He's like, come to my house. I said, fucking hell, what's the address? He said, just type in Camelot Castle, Plumstead. And I was like, all right, sweet. So then I found it, and it's like a fucking end terrace that is made to a castle. We went into his back garden. He had a fucking like a female security guard on the door that fucking searched you, and then you went in and he just got a fucking nightclub in his fucking garden. He's got a fucking sex dungeon in there with like sex swings and fucking chains on wall and stuff. He's fucking walking around absolutely off his barnet. It's mad. I think Rico...
Big Nasty was there, wasn't he?
Yeah, Big Nasty were in corner smoking a spliff. Rico was spewing in his back garden. It was just a fucking crazy... I love them crazy scenarios, mate.
Yeah. Well, I met Dave Courtney back in the day. I've got he used to come to the Cage Rage shows when it was in Caesars in Streatham. And it was quite funny because I'd only just read one of his books. And so, I knew a lot about... what he was doing, and me and him ended up getting chatting at the after party. And obviously, because I'd just read his book, I was saying, "Oh, what about him? And what about him?" And he was like, "How the fuck do you know all of this?" I was like, "I've just read your book, mate." You know what I mean? And then it was like about 6 months later, maybe it's a year later, I was fucking at Cage Rage at Wembley Conference Centre, and there was a load of us had gone up there. And we're in the bar. We got there early, and we were in the bar, and we're all having a drink. There's a load of people. This was back when it was the Cage Warriors forum days, and fucking loads of people from the forum were there. There was about 15 of us all stood in the bar having a drink, and all of a sudden I feels a tap on my shoulder, and I fucking turned round, and Dave Courtney stood there, and he's like, "All right, Andy, how you doing?" I'm like, "All right, Dave, how are you?" And every single person I was with was like, "Fucking hell, how do you know him?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's not what you know, it's fucking who you know." Yeah, he's quite a cool guy, man. And like I say, it made me look fucking awesome. So yeah, I was there. I fucking loved it, man. So listen, just want to sign off. So as always, you can catch me on social media. It's Andy Sledge on Facebook, at Andy Sledge on Twitter, Andy.Sledge on Instagram. As always, you can contact the Oil Check on 07510 954 793 or the oilcheck@hotmail.com, or all forms of social media at the Oil Check. And remember, the Oil Check is sponsored by Fight Central. So that's www.fight-central.com. oilcheck.co.uk, and you can use the code the oil check for a 10% discount. So listen, Danny, all I want to say, big thanks, mate. You have yourself a fantastic day, and obviously let us know as and when you're doing the Iron Man, and as and when you're potentially going to do this Vale Tudo fight, and if so, we'll share all your links and etc. etc.
Down, mate. Cheers for that.
All right, listen, you have a great day, mate. Thanks very much.
No worries, mate. See you.